Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Let us begin a brand new week here with the 5-Pack on the Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink alongside our producer, Heather Klein, hanging out with you. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. For the fathers out there, a belated Happy Father's Day to you on this Monday. Busy weekend, a lot to keep you entertained. We had some baseball, we had some golf, heck, we had some soccer, College World Series, some basketball news. We will get to all of it coming up here on the 5-Pack. Now, if you're anything like me, and I know a lot of you say I never want to be anything like you, Kyle, but sometimes you just are, right? Last Friday, I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun with our Dunris triple play pack rip. For those who might have missed it, for those who just need to be reminded, 40 cards. 40 card pack. And I really knew nothing about this set. I was not looking excited about opening this pack of cards. But lo and behold, it surprised. And that's kind of part of the joy of the pack rip here on the 5-Pack, is sometimes we're surprised. And, you know, these cards are not very attractive or anything, but I pointed out we got a lot of stars, which was cool. They also have some pretty wildly cool tidbits. Now, again, we were opening 40 cards last week here on the 5-Pack, so I didn't get to all these tidbits. But over the weekend, I got a chance to sit down and take a read. And I decided to pull out 3 of my favorite tidbits from last Friday's pack rip and just hit you with them here. For instance, you know this guy, right? Mark McGwire. You may have not known that Mark has appeared with other members of the A's in the Oakland Ballet's production of The Nutcracker. Now, Mark McGwire is known for a lot of things, and there are a lot of trivia tidbits about Big Mac. But how about the one that he has performed in The Nutcracker as an adult? So that was a good one. Leo Gomez, which it's like, well, who cares about Leo Gomez? Even the card set didn't care about Leo Gomez. They had nothing to say about the young man. So what they gave us is this, and I love this. This is just trivia for you sitting at home. In 1954, the Orioles and the Yankees made the biggest trade ever, involving 18 players. I mean, they were the NBA before the NBA. 18 guys involved in the trade. And then finally, Steve Buechele, who I believe was the final card that we pulled on Friday. This, again, has nothing to do with Steve Buechele. It does have something to do with his team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I wanted to bring up this bit of information because sometimes there are names we've heard of, even Hall of Famers. And I get it. You can't know everybody's story. You can't know everything about every super player over the last 120 years. So here's one, Ralph Kiner. Now, Ralph Kiner, many of you in the audience might recognize his name. New York Mets fans, you know, he was a longtime announcer, eventually made the Hall of Fame. Anyway, here's something that's pretty crazy. What Pirate Hall of Famer won 7 consecutive home run crowns? It is indeed Ralph Kiner. 7 consecutive home run crowns. Like, that's insanely impressive. You know, to do it 7 straight years, to be healthy 7 straight years to pull that off. Kudos to Ralph Kiner. Let's give him a little shout out here on this edition of the 5-Pack. Now, can we top it today? Today we're going to switch sports. We're going to give you a little football on the 5-Pack. I don't believe we've ever opened a pack of 1991 Fleer Ultra football trading cards. These are the high-end luxury edition of Fleer football to compete with Upper Deck, to compete with Stadium Club. They never really did, but we will tear through this 1991 card set coming up in just a bit. Of course, before we get to any of that, we got the 5 things that matter right now. We got the 5 things that will matter, so let us dig into the fun. Starting with our 5 things that matter on this Monday morning, and we begin with the U.S. Open. Yes, we got you started with this, all the way back to last week. Had round 1 on Thursday, round 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, and of course the final round yesterday. And when it was all said and done, a man who pretty well was off the board. Not off the board, but he was a long shot, I think, coming into the weekend in Los Angeles. Wyndham Clark, who had never really come close to winning a major. Well, he won it yesterday in LA, and he did it in very strong fashion on Sunday.
Who takes down all the stars in Los Angeles to win the United States Open.
I feel like I belong on the stage, and even 2-3 years ago when people didn't know who I was, I felt like I could still play and compete against the best players in the world, and I felt like I've shown that this year. And I've come up close, and obviously everyone sees the person that hoists the trophy, but I've been trending in the right direction for a long time now. I've made a lot of cuts. I've had a handful of top 10s and top 20s. And I feel like I've been on a great trajectory to get to this place. And obviously it's gone faster than I thought. And, as far as just starting to do some stuff mentally that I've never done before.
Wyndham Clark there, much more composed there in that post-game media scrum. You will always see emotion when a golfer wins a major golf championship, but watching Wyndham Clark there yesterday in LA, that's like really emotional. And hey, if you've won 7 of them before, 10 of, these major titles, maybe you get used to it. Wyndham Clark has now won 2 tournaments ever in the PGA. Obviously, this was his first major, getting the U.S. Open on Sunday. He is now the 5th straight U.S. Open winner to be a first-time major winner. The other thing with Wyndham Clark, I mentioned the strong finish. He shot par yesterday. He was right at 70, but he had a chorus of big-name golfers chasing after him and pushing him the entire day on Sunday. So he did a heck of a job. He wins by a stroke over Rory McIlroy. McIlroy had issues with his putter. Should give a shout out to Scotty Scheffler, who was one of the favorites coming into this tournament. He finished 3rd. In his last 10 major appearances, Scotty Scheffler has finished top 10 in 8 of them. So keep that in mind as we get set for the Open Championship over in Britain coming up next month. Scotty Scheffler, he'll be a favorite again, but always a good bet for top 10. One other note on this U.S. Open, and this was a big question mark. You go back like 5-6 days ago before this tournament got started in L.A., and we talked about it here on the 5-pack. This course was an unknown. The PGA had never been there. It was not a very public course. Even the private side of this course was very limited. They were very stringent about who got involved in this course. So it was kind of a big unknown. And in tradition, the U.S. Open is always probably one of the 4 or 5 toughest tournaments on the entire PGA schedule for a season. Well, I bring all that up because we saw it on Thursday last week, and it kind of continued through the weekend. It was not as dramatic on Friday, Saturday, Sunday like it was on Thursday. But overall, this was one of the absolute easiest U.S. Open courses you will ever see. In fact, you can make the argument it was the easiest U.S. Open course. Here's the stat. The average score per round at the U.S. Open this year was 71.6. Remember, par was 70. So it was not like people were constantly going 6, 7, 8 under. They weren't. But still, that 71.6, here's the perspective. That is the first time in U.S. Open history, and what was this, the 123rd event? That was the first time in U.S. Open history that the average strokes were below 72. It was 71.6. So it ended up being a pretty easy U.S. Open course, and certainly worked for Wyndham Clark. Mention the Open Championship. That'll be next month, July 20th. Royal Liverpool is hosting it this year. Odds are already out, even though we're a month away. Rory McIlroy plus 750, John Rahm 900. Mentioned Scotty Scheffler, he's at plus 1,000. Brooks Koepka on that list at plus 1,400. As for Wyndham Clark, and again, this reiterates kind of the out of nowhere-ness of his title. He is the 21st pick on the board for the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. He is currently plus 3,500 to make it 2 majors after he gets his first major on Sunday. Congratulations to Wyndham Clark there. Okay, let's move to item number 2 of what does matter. And we had a big trade on Sunday, and it's something we talked about last week. Mere days after reports came out that Bradley Beal and the Washington Wizards were maybe set to part ways, well, they made it official. They have parted ways. Bradley Beal, one of the top shooting guards in all of the NBA, has been traded, and he lands with the Phoenix Suns. We see this a lot, right? The Phoenix Suns, they just got Kevin Durant, right? They get Bradley Beal now. So you've got Durant, you got Beal, you got Devin Booker. All 3 of these dudes, by the way, are making over $50 million next year. It's a big 3. It's a huge 3. Now, what did the Wizards get for Bradley Beal? Bradley Beal's been like the best player for Washington over the last 20, 25 years, probably, maybe even longer. Anyway, so they trade Bradley Beal. I get it. He wanted out, didn't want to stick around for a rebuild, had a huge contract. He had a no trade clause. This was not the easiest deal for the Washington Wizards to make. In fact, there were reports that Miami was trying to get Bradley Beal. Milwaukee was trying to get Bradley Beal. Because Beal had the no trade clause, he chose to go to Phoenix. So even if Phoenix didn't offer the best deal to Washington, they almost had to take it because of Beal's no trade clause. Now, you see the big 4 for Phoenix there. What you don't see anymore with Phoenix is Chris Paul. What you don't see is Landry Shamet. Those 2 guys go to the Wizards, and then it's like a bunch of second-round picks and a bunch of flip-flops in the first round. It was a very underwhelming get for perhaps the best player in franchise history over the last quarter century. But again, Bill held the cards here. Suns now have a big 3. We'll see what they do with DeAndre Ayton. You saw him there. You saw the money. I mean, 160 plus million for 4 guys. I guess you can do it. They're going to have to pay a luxury tax penalty. We'll see. The Suns are obviously all in. But, man, if you're a Wizards fan today, you're kind of looking at it and going, did we really get enough for Bradley Beal? And like I said, not everything's official. It's got to go through the NBA offices. But Chris Paul may never play a game for the Wizards. In fact, it's unlikely he'll play a game. Landry Shamet, the same thing. Both those guys are, in effect, a salary dump that the Wizards got. And then they get a bunch of second rounders. Second rounders in the NBA, total crapshoot. I mean, they're lottery tickets. So pretty underwhelming when you consider you got 4 second-round picks and, like, you're going to flip-flop first-round picks. It's like nothing there. By the way, Phoenix currently is the 3rd pick for the NBA title next year, plus 650 after the move for Bradley Beal. Probably gives them some gain on the Denver Nuggets, who are number 1 on that futures chart. Here's the thing, though. You know, we saw it with the Suns already. When they added Kevin Durant this past trading deadline, they flew up the boards. And they became, in effect, the favorite out of the West. When that trade first happened, that was the expectation. Man, Booker, Durant, Chris Paul, this is going to be great. Well, Durant barely played in the regular season. He had an injury, and of course, they got knocked out very quickly in the playoffs. So you make this move for Beal, and I get it. I mean, Bradley Beal's great. Kevin Durant's great. Devin Booker, like, you've got shooters everywhere. I mean, I don't know if there's another team in the NBA that can spread the court more now than the Phoenix Suns with Durant, Beal, and Booker. I mean, it's pretty wild. But we got a long way to go. 82 games, a whole bunch of playoffs. Bradley Beal only played 50 games last year because of injuries. Kevin Durant can never stay on the court. We'll see how it works for the Phoenix Suns. Okay, moving from basketball, let's go to the world of baseball as we move to item number 3 on what does matter on this Monday. And we go out west. A big series this weekend with the LA Dodgers taking on the San Francisco Giants. And the storyline coming into the year is that, wow, LA is LA. LA is dominant. LA is the best in the West. Well, don't look now. Don't look now. The LA Dodgers, if you look at the NL West standings, they're not in first place. They're not in second place. The LA Dodgers in the middle of June are sitting in third place. They are in third place because over the weekend, a 3-game home set against the much-hated rivals to the north, the San Francisco Giants. Well, it was all San Francisco, including yesterday, as the Giants finished off a 3-game sweep at Dodger Stadium.
Hanging splitter down the left field line. It's just fair. It ricochets into the corner. 1 run is home. 2 runs are home. A double for Luis Matos. 5-2 Giants. Base hit to center field. Matos is going to be waved. Outman comes up through, and it's a wild throw. It goes to the on-deck circle. Sable easily into second and thought about maybe going further. 2. Off the glove of Freddie Freeman into right field. Sable scores. Crawford over to third. That was just blistered.
All Giants, all the time in Southern California this past weekend. They win yesterday by a final score of 7-3. They won Friday 7-5. Saturday, the Giants beat the Dodgers 15-0. San Francisco has now won 7 in a row. Big week for them. Beginning tonight, they've got 4 at home against San Diego. Padres have struggled this year, but they're still the Padres with Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Tatis, all those guys. So 4 in a row against the Padres. And then coming up this weekend, 3 in San Francisco against the first place Arizona Diamondbacks. Giants are only 3.5 back of Arizona. And they are now a game ahead of LA. And I mentioned the Giants winning 7 in a row. Dodgers have lost 10 of their last 14. They are off today. They've got 2 in Anaheim going up against the Angels. Checking in on the NL West odds because, again, I think everybody thought LA would pull back a bit this year, but everybody still had the Dodgers a heavy, heavy favorite. Dodgers were still, I want to say, a top 3 pick to win the World Series. I think it was Houston, Atlanta, and then the Dodgers. Right now, the Dodgers, again, are barely top 3 in the NL West. They are sitting with a record that's still good. Don't get me wrong. I think they're 6 games over 500, but they're behind the Giants. They're behind the Diamondbacks. Right now, they are still the prohibitive favorite. If you go over to DraftKings, check out the sports book. Dodgers are minus 125. What's interesting are the other odds you can get. Arizona plus 350. San Francisco plus 475, San Diego plus 550. If you've lost your mind completely, Colorado is plus 70,000. Don't want to go that direction. But you look at those other odds on the Giants, the Diamondbacks, and heck, even the Padres. To see the Dodgers still at minus 125, it is kind of ignoring the obvious. And the obvious going on with the Dodgers is, unlike so many past seasons, their bullpen is nowhere close to dominant. Not at all. I mean, their bullpen is like a 4.5 ERA. Their bullpen does not have a veteran shutdown guy. Now, they can always make trades, but they've also got to worry about the starting rotation. I mean, right now, they've got injured guys. They've got young, unproven guys. They've got veterans like Noah Syndergaard that probably shouldn't be out there anymore. So the Dodgers, we think pitching, and they just keep hitting us with prospects. And I think their bats are fine. They're going to be fine there. The pitching, though, for the LA Dodgers. Again, off today, they opened up a series against Anaheim, but they suffer a 3-game home sweep against the San Francisco Giants. And here come the Giants, kind of left for dead. They're now making a move with 7 straight wins. Staying out west, we move to item number 4 of what does matter on this Monday, and we go to Seattle for a mostly overlooked matchup between the White Sox and the Mariners. Heck, even when you look at the final score yesterday, if you just looked at the box score and said, oh, Mariners win 5-1, who cares? But what happened in that game was Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn has had a pitiful year. Lance Lynn has been, you can make the argument, one of the 5 worst starting pitchers in all of baseball this year. Yesterday in Seattle, it didn't totally work out, but it did work out enough to where Lance Lynn struck out 16 Seattle Mariners in just 7 innings of work.
Fastball guy so far. 2. Waukesha, as you saw. 3-2. 2-2. Swing and a miss, and he ties the franchise record in strikeouts on this Sunday in Seattle.
That record for the White Sox is all the way back in like 1954. There's something mesmerizing about watching those highlights from NBC Sports Chicago. And it was a lot of swings and misses. There's not a whole lot of Lance Lynn firing strike 3 and he just fooled the hitter and he goes down looking. I mean, you watch those highlights, it's a ton of swing and miss. Here's the thing, though. As dominating as Lance Lynn was, and yes, that is domination, the dude still lost. He still lost. It's a kind of year for Lance Lynn. Let's see. Here's what we see. This is after yesterday's effort. He is 4-8. His ERA is 6.5. He has given up the most hits in the American League. He has given up the most earned runs in all of baseball. Now we bring it up. Why does it matter? Okay, great effort, 16 strikeouts, but hell, you still lost. This matters because Lance Lynn is expected to be one of the top trade deadline targets. Major League Baseball trade deadline coming our way at the end of July. He's not been good this year, but Lance Lynn has pedigree. Lance Lynn's been there, done that. Lance Lynn is set to be a free agent at the end of this year. Obviously, we see yesterday he's not totally washed. But what's interesting about Lynn and this decision for the White Sox is right now the White Sox have not had a good season, but you know what? They're still in it. They lose yesterday to the Mariners, and they're still just 5.5 games back. And there are a few other names on that White Sox team that could be offloaded. Plenty of talented pieces who really aren't doing well in Chicago, but could certainly help a team that is making a push for the postseason. And Lance Lynn is one of those guys. So Chicago's got this very important stretch coming up over the next 5 weeks. Are they in? Are they out? What do they do with Lance Lynn? What do they do with Dylan Cease? Do they maybe trade Eloy Jimenez? Do they flip Andrew Benintendi? How about Tim Anderson? Like, they've got a lot of guys that would be of interest, I think, to other major league teams. Liam Hendricks out of the bullpen. So we'll see. White Sox 5.5 behind Minnesota. The Vegas odds makers do not like the chances of the Chicago White Sox catching the Guardians or the Twins. Right now, at this moment, Chicago is plus 850 to win the AL Central. Tonight, they're up against Texas. Andrew Heaney going for the Rangers, and some dude named Jesse Schultens is going for the White Sox. That is a 8:10 first pitch tonight from U.S. Cellular Park. Finally, we go to our 5th and final item that matters. If you caught last Friday's show, we told you about the U.S. men's national soccer team. Out of nowhere, they announced that they're going to be hiring Greg Berhalter, the guy they fired and let go in December. They're going to bring him back to be the coach of the U.S. men's national team. Well, Greg Berhalter was not on the sideline last night when the U.S. men's team made it back-to-back CONCACAF League Nations titles. This is a tournament that is run every single year. It involves, I think it's about 40 countries from North America, Central America, the Caribbean. Last night, the U.S. is taking on Canada. They dispatched Mexico on Thursday night. They get the Canadians last night, and they walked away with a 2-0 victory.
Reyna popped into the edge of the 6, and it's Chris Richards with the opener. He's been beaming with confidence. And it's dripping out of him now. His first international goal. And the U.S. has the lead in the final.
If he's able to connect that first pass in the midfield,
here's
there's
Reyna.
space to exploit.
Driving into space with Gallagher on his right! On a night of firsts! Fuller and Balogun has his first international goal for the U.S. And once again, Reyna, the genesis of it.
Welcome to the party, my man.
Welcome to the party now, long-time viewers of the 5-Pack. You were ready for that party. What was it, about a month and a half ago? Maybe a little over a month ago. I told you, I warned you. The guy who scored that second goal there, Florian Balogun, he announced it a little over a month ago. Big-time international player, young guy. He was going to play for the U.S. Could have gone to England. I think he could have played for Germany as well. Said, no, I'm going to play for the U.S. And this past week in Las Vegas was set to be his debut, and you saw the goal last night. U.S. picks up a 2-0 victory, and things are looking good, right? Really good. For decades, the U.S. had kind of been the second in command when it came to soccer on this half of the globe. You know, in the CONCACAF region, it was always Mexico. Mexico at the top. Over and over again. Big rivalry, but Mexico always won. Well, not only have you been beating Mexico with kind of regularity over the past few years, but you got the win the other night. Canada's kind of an upstart. You get the win there. Dare I say, the U.S. men's national team kind of legit. And a reminder, the World Cup's coming to North America in just 3 years. Greg Berhalter will be there. Florian Balogun set to be there. We'll hope the Reyna kid is there. Him and Berhalter don't really get along. But a big win last night for the U.S. And again, back-to-back champs in the CONCACAF Nations League Cup. So congratulations to the U.S. men. 2-0, the victory last night against Vegas. Did I see correctly on that highlight? Was there actually a fan in the stands wearing a Mexican national jersey who seemed excited about the U.S. goal? I think there was. Haven't seen that in a long time, ever, if at all. Okay, those are the 5 things that do matter. When we return here on the 5-Pack, we are back with 5 things that will matter as we get your week started. Stay with us. More coming your way right here on the Better Sports Network.
If you're a Giant fan, I wouldn't worry about number 26. Why do I have that confidence? Because Saquon wants to be a Giant. Even if that long-term deal doesn't get done, I think Saquon Barkley will learn by the failure of Le'Veon Bell, who decided to sit out and not sign the franchise tag with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his career was never the same. Ultimately, Saquon Barkley will be back in the Giants' backfield in 2023, doing what he always does when healthy, and that is produce.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
All right, our man Moose talking a little NFL there. We'll get some NFL here in the 5 things that will matter. And speaking of the NFL, or perhaps notably fantasy football, head over to Fantasy Alarm right now. The brand new and always updated Fantasy Football Draft Guide is out, courtesy of Fantasy Alarm. Now, you see $26.99. You can just pay that and have it. Or you sign up, get a subscription, 7-day trial, any of that stuff, and the mag and all the insight and all the analysis, the edges, all that stuff. It's yours for free. So head over to fantasyalarm.com. It was just released less than a week ago. And I mentioned the updated aspect of it. Obviously, right now in the middle of June, there's not a whole lot going on in the NFL. Although there may be some things that happen in the next week, maybe in the next 2 weeks, that will change the outlook for certain players. Now, we're going to talk about that in a second. But when those occasions do happen, the great thing about the Fantasy Alarm Football Draft Guide is immediately they can update it. You get the update version. You get to see, oh, wow, that guy has jumped up amongst running back. Oh, wow, this guy with his new team. This draft guide is never frozen. This draft guide is always living. It's out right now, fantasyalarm.com. Coming up in just about 15 minutes, speaking of football, 1991 Fleer Ultra Football. We'll go through all 14 cards in this pack. It's been waiting over 3 decades to be opened. And right here on the 5-Pack, we'll do it up in just a bit. Before any of that, though, let's get to our 5 things that will matter. We'll start with a little baseball. We were telling you in the previous segment, the San Francisco Giants, big 3-game road sweep in LA, topping the Dodgers. There was another team, went on the road, taking on a very good team. In fact, this team was taking on the defending champs, the Houston Astros. Well, the Cincinnati Reds, yes, the Cincinnati Reds took all 3 games from Houston. They have now won 8 in a row. Tonight, they are up against Colorado. They are going for 9 in a row. Shall we sit back and enjoy some of the excitement with the Reds? I think we should. Here's yesterday's excitement in their 8th consecutive victory. Yes, the Reds, 8 straight wins.
India in the air to right. Tucker going back. That ball's got carry. It's gone. And the Reds lead. India's home run assault on the road trip continues. The first edge for Cincinnati today, 6-5 on the solo shot. Payoff. Rope to right field, base hit. Windmill on. A rip around third. Friedel scores. Fairchild to third base. Ellie De La Cruz tacks on.
What's up, Reds fans? We're having fun playing this game and we're playing it well. Let's keep winning. Everyone loves America's team.
Oh, we missed the part I wanted to see. Sorry about that. I wanted to comment that Jonathan India, who you just saw there, had the home run and then went on Twitter to tell all of us, which we just, sorry about the clip there. Jonathan India proceeded to tell all of us that the Reds are now America's team. Huh? America's team? The Reds? It's a good story. It's a good story. But are you America's team yet? I don't know. It's exciting. Looking for 9 in a row. The Reds taking on Colorado. Colorado, one of the worst teams in all of baseball. Now, interestingly enough, the Cincinnati Reds, let's pull up these numbers. Plus 600 to win the NL Central. Nobody's counting on the Reds. And hey, the NL Central, I said it last week, kind of a joke, but still, when you have 4 or 5 teams really in it, even if they're bad teams, it's kind of fun to watch the scoreboard night in, night out. It's kind of fun to get amped about the Cincinnati Reds. Now, if you're wondering, well, who's doing it for the Reds? Like, Jonathan India is having a pretty solid year. Not great, but solid. Ellie De La Cruz, we've talked about him before. He's kind of livened up the entire fan base. Hitting-wise, I mean, like, Spencer Steer's been good. Matt McClain, TJ Friedel. These are mostly unknown guys, unless you're like a diehard baseball fan. I will say the one thing that has differentiated the Reds against the competition is their bullpen. Alexis Diaz has been one of the absolute best closers in all of baseball. I mean, he is striking out 15 and a half batters per 9 innings. He's got 18 saves. ERA is under 2. His whip is like 0.85. So he's been stellar, but they've got other guys. I was looking at it today. I mean, Buck Farmer and Lucas Sims. They're like pitching well. So tonight, the Reds looking for 9 in a row. Brandon Williamson. Let me just do the work for you. He's an unknown. He's pitching for the Reds going up against Austin Gomber. 7-10 is the first pitch there. Let's stay in the NL Central. Let's move to item number 2 of what will matter. Tonight, the Pittsburgh Pirates will open up a home series against the Chicago Cubs. And they are calling up a guy who less than 2 years ago, they made the number 1 overall pick in all of baseball. Back in the 2021 MLB draft, the Pittsburgh Pirates were selecting number 1, as they're wont to do. And they selected Henry Davis, catcher out of Louisville. And tonight, Henry Davis will be called up, expected to be starting for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, here's the thing with Davis. He's a catcher by trade. But you will hear this a lot. He can hit. Everybody believes in the hit tool. Everyone's not really sold on the mitt. He's got some strides to make defensively. Now, again, hitting-wise, he's played 51 games this year, split between AA and AAA. Henry Davis with 11 home runs. He's doing fine with the bat. It's just defensively. You know, the Pirates, again, they're in this. Now, the Pirates have struggled. They got swept over the weekend by the Milwaukee Brewers. I think Pittsburgh's lost 6 in a row. Despite losing 6 in a row, I mean, they're 2.5 games out in the NL Central. So they're going to bring up Henry Davis. More than likely, you will see him on the lower half of the order. I would expect 6 to 9. But it's kind of like Ellie De La Cruz, who the Reds brought up 2-3 weeks ago. If you hit, they'll move you up. So we'll see if Henry Davis can maybe provide that spark. It certainly gives Pirates fans a little excitement. The team's already been exciting this year. Like I said, they're under 500, but they're in it. They're within striking distance. We'll see if Henry Davis gives them a boost. 6 in a row loss or 2.5 out. Check this out. Odds to win the NL Central. And I know I'm hitting you with a lot of odds today, but I find this just almost perplexing that the Pittsburgh Pirates, 2.5 games out, are plus 1,100 to win the NL Central. I get it. It's Pittsburgh and nobody thinks they can hang around. But even 2 months ago, people said, this is a fun April story. They'll be dead by June. They're not. And what they have going for them is not so much, hey, they're Pittsburgh and these guys are great and they're going to improve and they're going to be. It's not that. It's not really about Pittsburgh. It's about the competition. That is what makes plus 1,100 enticing. 1,100 is a huge long shot. You put down money on the Pirates at 1,100, you don't expect to win. But my God, look at the reward there. And when your competition is Milwaukee, who has been playing very middling baseball for 2+ months, who have had pitching issues already, when your competition is the Reds, who've got very little proven hitters or pitchers, when your competition is, the Cardinals are 15 games under 500. The Cubs are 6 or 7 under 500. I get it. The Pirates are a long shot. But you throw all this into the mixer, into the blender, plus 1,100. Not too bad. 7:05 tonight for the Pirates, taking on the Cubs. Let's see, Osvaldo Bido pitching for. Are we already at that point in the baseball schedule where it's like Osvaldo Bido time? I guess so. He's up against Drew Smiley. Let's go to item number 3. There are bad pitchers. There are guys like Osvaldo Bido who we don't even know who they are. There are guys like Lance Lynn, who we were talking about earlier, but none of them are perhaps as bad as a guy that is towing the rubber tonight. A guy by the name of Jordan Lyles. Now, Jordan Lyles, God love him, he's been around forever, but check out that bottom line. Check out that line down there. You see that? You see that big fat 0 under the wins column? Jordan Lyles will start for the Kansas City Royals tonight, taking on Detroit. This will be his 15th start. As you can tell, the Royals have yet to give Jordan Lyles a victory. Now, he's not pitched good. Let's not get this wrong. Look at the ERA, 6.9. But the whip isn't horrible, 1.3. He's given up a lot of home runs. He has not pitched well, but he's 0-11. The Royals in his 14 starts are 0-14. I did some work over the weekend. Here we go. In 1969, the Boston Red Sox went 0-16 for the first 16 starts by Jim Lonberg. 0-16. That is the worst run in a single season since World War II. Now, if you go all the way back to 1912, the Boston Red Sox went 0-18 when pitcher Walt Dixon was on the hill. So Jordan Lyles is 0-14. Tonight, the Royals are taking on Detroit. Can he avoid the 0-15? We'll see. We'll see. If you're interested in watching this, I don't know why you would, but if you're interested, 640, Lyles against Reese Olson. Now, here's the crazy thing. The Royals suck. Jordan Lyles sucks. They aren't much of a long shot tonight. It's plus 125. Yes, they're an underdog, but a very slight underdog against Reese Olson and the Detroit Tigers. So there you go. Oh, and if you maybe are feeling Jordan Lyles tonight, I will say he's been pretty good in his career against Detroit. 4 career starts. He does have a win. His ERA is about 3.5. His whip in 4 career starts against Detroit under 1. So maybe tonight's the night. But man, I just keep looking at that record by Jordan Lyles. 0-11. 0-11. Come on, man. Come on, Royals. Give some support to your teammate Jordan Lyles. Staying in the world of baseball, but moving to the collegiate ranks, the College World Series continues today. We've been talking a lot about it here on the network, talking a lot about it here on the 5-pack. A lot of future stars of Major League Baseball are playing in Omaha, and we had a heck of a weekend. I don't know how many of you saw it, but we had 2 games Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 2 on Sunday. We have played 6 games in this College World Series. 5 of the 6 games thus far have been decided by 1 run. And the only game that wasn't decided by 1 run, I think, was a 6-3 final. So they've had really good baseball over the weekend. The Florida Gators are 2 for 2. 2 games, 2 victories. And Wyatt Langford, who we told you about last week, Wyatt Langford probably going to be one of the first 3 or 4 names, maybe 3 to 5 names that is going to be drafted next month in the Major League Draft. He plays for the Florida Gators. He had an epic smash over the weekend that I wanted to show you.
And Jack Caglione looms behind him. This is hammered. Left field, and we are tied. Wow.
I might be saying, oh, just a home run, big moment. It was home run, big moment. College World Series tied the game up. That what you saw right there, that was a ball that went, I think it was 456 feet. That is the all-time record for a home run at Rosenblatt Stadium there in Omaha. In the College World Series, we've never seen a ball hit further than Wyatt Langford. So Florida off to a good start. Langford off to a good start. I think they play next coming up tomorrow. As for today, we've got 2 games. We've got Stanford, Tennessee, which starts up at 2 o'clock Eastern this afternoon. That is an elimination game. And then later tonight coming up, in this game, both games, in fact, are on ESPN. Later tonight, 7 o'clock, we will have Wake Forest against LSU. Now, this is not an elimination game between Wake Forest and LSU. But these 2 teams are worth noting because LSU and Wake Forest are the only 2 teams that at one point were ranked number 1 this season. Wake Forest is the current number 1. LSU was there earlier in the season. Tonight they will meet, 7 o'clock Eastern. You can see it right there on ESPN. What's always exciting about the College World Series, and we've already seen, I think Virginia has been eliminated. So we started with 8 teams. We're down to 7. Stanford or Tennessee, one of them is going to be eliminated today, so we'll be down to 6. Mention Wake Forest and LSU. Both those teams won their first game. If you win this game tonight, you are in a really good spot to make the finals, to make it into that best of 3 finals. If you lose tonight, and this speaks to how quickly it can go in the College World Series, if you lose tonight, you immediately have to come back tomorrow and you're playing in an elimination game. So, right now you're looking good. You're feeling good. You're amped. You're number 1 in the country if you're Wake Forest. You're a super team if you're LSU. But whoever loses tonight, they got their work cut out for them. Because, again, it could be over by like 5 o'clock tomorrow, even though they're not playing until 7 o'clock tonight. So check it out, ESPN, with not only the 2 games today, but all of the College World Series. Finally, we go to our 5th item that will matter. Talking about the NFL, and we touched on this a bit last week with Dalvin Cook. I know a lot of people are wondering about DeAndre Hopkins. One thing to keep an eye on this week in the NFL, we still have some free agent running backs that we've all heard of, that we've all used in fantasy leagues, that we've all celebrated at one time or another. Guys who run the football, and they still don't have a job. We are less than a month away from training camp, and you've got guys like Zeke Elliott. You've got guys like Leonard Fournette, guys like Dalvin Cook, of course. You got even somebody like Kareem Hunt. These players are all still looking for a home in 2023. And I get it. All of them have reasons that they aren't currently on an NFL team. But this is just another reminder in like a reminder after reminder after reminder of how this position is treated in the NFL. Zeke Elliott scored touchdowns last year. Leonard Fournette was a starting running back for Tampa. Dalvin Cook was good again. He was hurt, but good again. Guy like Kareem Hunt as a backup to Nick Chubb, solid. All these guys are looking for jobs. I saw over the weekend Joe Mixon, who had a super year last year for the Cincinnati Bengals. There are still rumors going around right now that the Cincinnati Bengals may bail on Joe Mixon. Right now, they're looking at their contracts and they're looking at what Joe Mixon's making. I think he's due like $12 million is what he counts against the cap. And they're saying, wow, nobody else in football is playing running backs more than $6 million. And we got this guy for $12 million. Now, I don't know if Cincinnati cuts Joe Mixon, but what they're trying to do is go to Joe Mixon, go to his reps and saying, hey, can you take a pay cut? Can you do us a favor here? Can you help us take money from you? Oh, and yeah, you're really good at your position, but we need money from you, and we want to pay Joe Burrow. Or we want to go out and get some offensive line help. Those are the discussions going on right now with Joe Mixon. Like, he has a team. He's not Zeke. He's not Fournette. He's not Kareem Hunt. He's got a team. But this week, next week, I guarantee you negotiations are going on where the Bengals are like, we need some of this money back. Come on, Joe, give us some of this money back. So we've got guys who are already looking for a job, big name running backs, guys who you certainly could see have moments in 2023. They're great depth plays. I don't know if any of them are starters at this juncture. At best, they're probably splitting. I mean, Zeke, if you're facing a 3rd and goal from the 2, there probably aren't many better running backs to have than Zeke Elliott. I mean, if nothing else, that guy knows how to find the end zone. But all of them still free agents as we enter this week of July. You see them right there. You see them in their old uniforms. We'll see if they have new uniforms coming up. Those are the 5 things that will matter on this Monday. Hopefully 1, 2, maybe all 4 of those guys get a job. When we return here on the 5-pack, we are going to go through our pack rip. We do it every day. Today we got some football. 1991 Fleer Ultra. I believe it's the first year of Fleer Ultra as they got into the ring with the premium product. We'll tear through this foil pack coming up next right here on BSN.
Dameon Pierce has been one of the most talked about running backs post-draft, since the Houston Texans really didn't bring in any competition. But should you expect him to perform the same way he did last year? Pump the brakes a little bit on that. As good as Pierce was in breaking tackles and creating yards after contact last year, he was severely lacking in pass protection, ranking 124th. The Texans also brought in Devin Singletary. I expect much more of a committee approach. At an ADP of 67.6, I'm steering clear of Dameon Pierce.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Okay, good to have you back with us on this Monday. Kyle Elfrink with you, and today we're going to break away from the usual. Usually we're hitting a lot of baseball, loads of baseball. Not today, though. Let's do some football, shall we? We have the mandatory mini camps going on over the past, 2 weeks or so. Let's do a little football. We're going to kind of go into a quiet time. I know I was talking about those running backs. Hopefully, those running backs will find homes. But other than that, nothing's really going on in football right now. Let's have a little football, shall we? Let's do a little pack rip. We got Fleer Ultra here. 1991, we got 14 cards. Let's see. Is this sucker going to open? Come on, you stupid pack. Let's see. There we go. You think after all these many decades of opening packs, there would no longer be any pack that could keep Kyle Elfrink out of it. Okay, we got that pack open. Okay, Fleer Ultra. These are very similar. In fact, they're the same exact card. We did some Fleer Ultra baseball from 1991, and literally, and I guess some of this is what you would do. You want to have everything wants to be in the same line, everything wants to be congruent, but this is literally the same design on the football side that they use on the baseball side for 1991 Fleer Ultra. We start with Trace Armstrong, D lineman, good D lineman for the Chicago Bears. Was he out of Miami? No, Florida. Okay, Trace Armstrong went to Florida and had a good 4 or 5 years there with the Bears. Was kind of seen as the replacement, if you will, for Richard Dent. The thing about Fleer Ultra, you get 3 photos on the back. That's right. How about that? 3 photos on the back, in addition to the action photo on the front. Let us stay in the NFC Central at the time, now the NFC North. Tim Harris, Patriots linebacker. Talked about Tim Harris a few weeks ago. He was the guy, I believe, that slammed Jim McMahon to the turf. Is that right? Maybe I'm wrong on that. And we're just going to keep it going. This whole pack may be defenders. Wilber Marshall of the Washington Redskins. Very good linebacker. Not a legend for the Redskins, but if you grew up in this area, you know who Wilber Marshall is. And he was also a former Chicago Bear. He was with, I think, those Rob Ryan defenses back in the day. The great 86 Bears, the 46D. Chris Dolman, a fearsome defensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings. He was always near the top of the sack leaders. He makes it. Toy Cook, not Tim. This is Toy Cook, D-back for the Saints. I don't know much about Toy Cook, but my God, look at the flat top. Nice looking flat top, Toy Cook. They don't make them like that anymore. I love that. That's a sharp looking flat top. Good stuff there. Okay, we have a Fleer Ultra draft pick. And this guy, he was not a bust like a Ryan Leaf. He was not a bust like a maybe Rick Meyer. Rick Meyer, of course, drafted by Seattle, but he was a bust at quarterback for Seattle. Dan McGuire, who I believe, was he brother with Mark, or was it maybe a cousin of Mark? Dan McGuire, 6'8" for Dan McGuire. This you can't see it on the helmet. They had to color out the emblem because you couldn't show college emblems. But Dan McGuire played for the San Diego State Aztecs, I do believe. Yeah, San Diego State. Started at Iowa. As a senior, he completed 60% of his passes, 3,800 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. The tallest quarterback to ever compete at the collegiate level. Dan ranks second on the Aztecs career list for completions and yards. Drafted by the Seattle Seahawks and was an absolute bust. It was no good. In fact, he was bad. Let's just say that. But that was a card. If you pulled this in 1991, you're like, whoa, I got a quarterback who's going to be the next Dan Marino. No, you got the next Dan McGuire is what you got. Pepper Johnson, Giants linebacker. And anytime the Giants were playing the Eagles, Pepper Johnson was after this next guy, the legendary Randall Cunningham. Randall Cunningham is a guy that if you saw him, you know him. If you never saw him, he might be forgotten to the sands of time. He was, to me, along with Steve Young, but Cunningham even more than Young. Cunningham was the original. He was the original Michael Vick. He was the original Lamar Jackson. He was the original Cam Newton. The dude knew how to get outside the pocket and hurt you. And he was an explosive QB. Now, they never won as much as people thought in Philadelphia with Randall Cunningham. And he eventually left Philly, kind of got resurrected in Minnesota. The Vikings, I think it was that rookie year with Randy Moss. Vikings went 15-1. Their offense was out of this world, and Randall Cunningham was a huge part of that offense. Put up massive numbers that one year with Minnesota. But a lot of people consider him an Eagle. Those were his early days. A lot of highlights of Randall Cunningham getting around and racing around the pocket. Fun player. Great player. Like I said, he was up there with the Vicks, the Lamar Jacksons, Cam Newtons, all that stuff. Kevin Fagan, as we continue our run through all things defensive line in this Fleer Ultra Pack. Here is Michael Kofer. Why not throw another linebacker on the fire? Kofer, the linebacker for the Lions, taking on those creamsicle Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Up next, man, love this name. This is a fun name. Chris Berman called them the Mac Attack. Kevin Mack. And Kevin Mack, doesn't he just look like a Cleveland Brown? Check out those pads. And you see the defensive back from the San Francisco 49ers. He got no chance against number 34. And Kevin Mack teamed up with Ernest Biner. Kevin Mack and Ernest Biner. Couple of just awesome running backs at Cleveland. They teamed him up with Webster Slaughter as a wide receiver. Ozzie Newsome was the tight end. Bernie Kosar, of course, was the quarterback. Cleveland, though, never made the Super Bowl. They didn't with Kevin Mack. They didn't with Bernie Kosar. To this day, the Cleveland Browns have never made a Super Bowl. But this is when Cleveland was flying high. And Kevin Mack, check out the back. I keep talking about these shoulder pads. And you'll see this with linebackers. Check them out on this running back. I mean, look at that side shot of Kevin Mack. I mean, the shoulders are wider than the helmet and everything else. Just a big dude. Let's see. never, at least at this point in the year, what is this, 87, 88, 89, and 90, 4 years, never topped 735 yards rushing. I will say in 1990, 42 catches for 360 yards. How about getting that guy out in the flat, making a reception and trying to bring him down as a cornerback? What happens is you get left in the dust like that 49er cornerback did. Here is Maurice Hurst. Don't know much about Maurice Hurst. I can't give you the rundown on him. Although I can say, much like a Toy Cook, flat top alert. It's a good one. Maybe that was a thing for defensive backs back in 1990. Toy Cook and Maurice Hurst. Let's give a double whammy of flat tops there. Up next is Burn Brostek. Of course, we all know him as an offensive lineman for the LA Rams. Interesting thing with the back of Burns' card is, all these other guys have stats. I've always felt this with offensive linemen. What do? It's cool to have a card, but we want cards for stats. We get no stats with offensive linemen. Like, I don't even know today if you made offensive lineman cards, would you have like number of pancakes? Probably have sacks allowed. I'm sure there are advanced analytics you could put on there. Instead, for Burn Brostek, we get originally drafted as a center. Burn has been used extensively as a guard by the Rams. He was so impressive that the team decided to put him there after the 91 season. Brostek played in all 16 games as a rookie, started 2, and played extensively on the kickoff return and conversion units. He was also a regular in the Rams goal line and short yardage offenses. So big things planned for Burn Brostek. They didn't really happen, though, after that rookie season. And then finally, another New York Giant, Mark Collins. Giants, of course, pretty strong back here in the late 80s, early 90s. So we get Mark Collins, who was Pepper Johnson was the other Giant that we got. So there we go. A lot of defense in this 1991 Flair Ultra. We get 14 cards and literally 10 of them. Who are our only offensive guys? We got Kevin Mack. It's a fun one. We got the draft day bust, Dan McGuire. Everybody, Dan McGuire. And another thing with Dan McGuire, you can see it there. I remember Dan McGuire, the visor. So, I'm trying to think. Another quarterback that wore a visor? Quarterbacks don't. I guess you saw it a bit with Michael Vick. He would do the visor. But Dan McGuire was kind of the originator there with the visor. It did not help. Or those are only 2 offensive players outside of the O-line. Oh, we had Randall Cunningham. So 3 of our 14 cards in this Flair Ultra pack were actual guys you get excited about. And no knock on Chris Dolman or Pepper Johnson or Wilbur Marshall, but you're defenders. And this is America. We like the guys who carry the football. We like the guys who get the touchdowns, if you will. The guys who stop the touchdowns, it's fine, but we like the guys who get the touchdowns. Okay, 1991 Flair Ultra. Not the most attractive set of cards, but one thing they've got going is all of these, well, not all of these, 4/5 of them, action shots. And I'm not going to lie to you and say it's the greatest action of all time, but, you got some things going on here. Like Tim Harris shedding a defender. Trace Armstrong making his way to the QB. Randall Cunningham, eyes downfield, looking for some rushing yardage. And, of course, Kevin Mack looking for somebody to trouble. 1991 Flair Ultra. There were only a few years of Flair Ultra football. Okay, that does it for us on the 5-pack. We're back on Tuesday. Enjoy your sports day. We'll see you tomorrow, 12 Eastern, right here on the Better Sports Network.